All right, I have just a heads up. I did start the recording.
I did see that button in the corner. Thank you for the heads up.
No worries. All right. How are you, Kelly?
Oh, hanging in there.
Yeah, it's weird to say the least. Just a reminder, this is going to be recorded, but this is just really a conversation. I guess I'll start with the intro. Hello, Free Rangers. Here is me, your host per se. This is Alex, and then we have our wonderful first guest, which is Kelly.
Hey, I'm the first guest. Oh, I feel so special.
Yes. So all the crap that's gonna go wrong, that's gonna stick at the wall, is guess this is gonna we're
Sick.
gonna figure it out. I have you guys can't see it, but I have like a crap ton of stickers with like a clip so like that was like what questions you ask and stuff like that just in case. So
There
it's
you
like
go.
it's
Gotta
off
be
camera,
prepared.
but the secret is out, so it doesn't matter. But yeah, so I guess I'll start introducing everyone with this conversation or podcast is about. For those who do not know, this 2020 has been basically a crazy year due to COVID-19, and recently, as today, which is June 7th, with the rioting due to rest in peace, Mr. George Floyd. Um, and the whole thing that is involved with that, basically, the world has been more separated and the same, like together in the same paradox compass of what the world is at this time. So due to realizing like, oh wow, like like we're some businesses have reopened, I decided to start a podcast with members of our community, so we can reconnect in a way, while just not just doing the 1 hour class, as it's easy to distance ourselves from everything, and also but trying to stay together for those especially who's been more like isolated due to like work, or maybe because they're more like immune system prone and things of that sort. So yeah, today is the first day of the podcast kind of thing, and I made it super cheesy and I called it I think what was it called, freeing from the curve. So it was like I thought it makes sense to me, so I think it makes sense for everyone. So it's just like, so but yeah. All right. Yeah, so that is it for the intro. Kelly, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Kelly. I'm sure most of you guys know me. Can't keep my mouth shut in gym classes. I'm that person in the background that's just providing sarcastic comments about working out. But everybody knows that if they push me the right way, results do happen, I guess you could say. Whatchamacallit, I am a kindergarten teacher, and I have been teaching, I think now it's crazy, like 6 years, which time flies. Like I remember graduating in December, and then I got hired mid-year at one school, and then I went back to my old school that I actually ended up student teaching at and worked alongside my old mentor teacher, which was dope. And kindergarten for three years, 3 to 4 years, and then I got bumped up to first grade for a year, which was really cool. And then I switched schools, and now this is my second year at this one school as the kindergarten SEI classroom, and that's the structured English immersion classroom. So I get all the babies that are, from obviously out of the country, or and where English is their second language. And so I, yeah, so that's me. And I have an assistant that I work with, and I have a new one this year. I'm really pumped about it. But I kind of just help teach the kids English along with academics on top, which, you know, I'm sure like you can only imagine, like, here, like, let me teach you math, reading, and science and all this stuff. And oh, by the way, I actually have to teach you how to speak English on top of that. So, like, brain is just overwhelmed. So
Gotcha.
it's kind of interesting, and that definitely played a huge role into all of this shenanigans with that added level of English on top of it, versus
Yeah.
people are like, oh, here, let's do online classes. And you're like, okay, cool, sick. And you just pump away. Whereas, like, half of my family's like, I have to find like translators and people to try and
Hmm.
communicate with my kids' parents. So,
Gotcha. And so that's actually something like I did not know. I mean, I knew you were a teacher and stuff like that. Me as a former ESL kid, which is like English second language,
Hmm.
for the audience, I'm originally from France, moved here when I was 11, and then came to the States, and then lived in Texas for a couple of years, Pennsylvania, and then here. But anyways, that brings an interesting question. How are like you obviously like I wanted to interview you because one, you're a teacher. How
Hmm.
has a teacher like affected the whole thing? Like, I'm sure like school had to kind of end early. Like
Hmm.
basically you guys had to teach from my understanding like using Zoom and then all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then, like, and especially like in the specific area that you work in, how are like the parents that are from outside of the US, like, and how they interacting with you and how's that been? Because, talking with another language is like, there's got to be another barrier to this.
Hmm.
So how does that affect it?
It was definitely interesting, and I think what was the hardest part was that the whole state was trying to figure out school wise of what to do, but it was left up to the schools and the districts to kind of come up with the game plan. So I work in a charter school, and so we answer to people above us in our charter system on how to proceed basically. But the way our school handled something was completely different than the district that we were located in. So I know my two friends who are still teaching in the district where I'm located, they moved to online, they moved to Zoom, and their expectations of continuing learning and working with the kids and parents were extremely different than what our charter system asked us to do.
Hmm.
So for them, they had to still do 1 hour Zoom with their entire class every day. They still had professional development hours they had to do every Friday. They had to assign work online and just different things like that. Whereas what happened with our school, so we went on spring break second week in March, I think,
Hmm.
and it was tentative, like all up in the air, like, oh, what's gonna happen with the school year? Like, are we gonna come back? And I'm just like, at that point, you're just like, well, I guess I'll wait to see what's gonna be told to me.
Hmm.
And sure enough, the last day of spring break, we got an email saying, hey guys, our date that we're gonna come back is gonna be in 2 weeks. Okay, cool. So what we had to do with already being home, we as a kindergarten team in my school, we actually went to school, sat down, worked together in a group, and we came up with packets
Hmm.
of work for the kids to do. So we had to do some math, some reading, because those are the two big things. And then we have a course called civics, which is science, social studies, and that stuff. And so we had to come up with a packet for them to complete. And we graded it on, if you gave it to us, you participated, you got 10 points. And if you didn't do it, we were able to give you 7.5, which I kind of had a problem with because, I'm giving you points, but you're not participating type thing. Like that was weird to me because we technically still needed to have grades. So
Right. Do you
we, yeah, so what
like
happened
to? Yeah. Like, 'cause, like, can you
was,
just put your name on there? Like, that works?
yeah,
Man, I wish
yeah,
high school was like that for me. It's like, man, I just need to put my name on there. Easy A.
exactly.
But yeah.
And for some of my kids who I've had struggles with, like connecting with the parents or having the kids even just complete homework throughout school year, it was like a free pass to them. And I'm like,
Mm.
well, here I was, trying to make sure they were staying on track and trying to help them. And all of a sudden, now this happens, and it's like all the work just goes to hell. And you're like, awesome, cool, thanks.
Yeah,
And
that's gonna be
so
rough.
so our school stayed open for 2 weeks. So everybody in the front office, and then we as a kinder team, we met like every Monday to create this packet for the week. And it was cool because our school, because we're in a low income district school, we provided an opportunity and we printed out like probably easily like 1,000 packets. And the parents were able to come up to the school and we were able to hand them out through a car line so the kids could complete a hard copy of it if you didn't have technology and all that stuff.
Hmm.
And then on Friday, you would just drop the paper like in a box outside the classroom. I mean, outside the school, and then we were able to grade it type thing.
Curbside service, got it.
Pretty much. And again, because we were in a low income district school, we actually had our meal service every day. We would set like a time, parents could come by and we would hand out food to them, hand out the kids lunch and breakfast and stuff like that. And so like those things kept happening. All of a sudden the 2 weeks were up and they're like, no more, like school's done for the end of the year. And it was abrupt to us because here all of us teachers had been out for 2 weeks and we haven't had like that admin kind of like, I don't want to say like interaction, but like we're trying now to come up with a game plan all through technology. So it was like phone calls, emails, and everything, trying to come up with what to do. And so now that they were like, okay, we're going to move to the end of the year, we decided as a school and as a charter system to use Microsoft Teams. Now, Microsoft Teams is super different than Zoom. So Microsoft Teams, and because our school was concerned with privacy, we had to have an admin person on our channel, I guess you could say, if I was supposed to speak with a kid. And the kid could only see me. I could not see them. I could only hear them. And there was no group classes, whereas like my other teacher friends, like I told you, they were able to meet with their students every day. Their kids could see each other, whereas like we couldn't. And that kind of bummed me out because like, you're a kid, you want to see your friends, and I want to see their faces too. So like that was kind of hard. So we moved to Microsoft Teams and we started uploading all these worksheets, just everything, just dumping them online, which then broke into this huge mess because, like I said, like my parents, or a good amount of my parents, didn't speak English. So here we're going from, being in class where like I can write notes or I can have a translator or things like that, but, complete most of the work in class. Now we're dumping all of this work to this online platform. Do these parents have access to internet? Do these parents have access to a tablet or a computer or something to do this? A printer? And it got to a certain point where our school actually worked with Cox and got our parents free internet, which was awesome. And we handed out a boatload of laptops for the kids to rent to complete all this. But then I turned into kind of like the IT person. So parents were like, well, how do I do this? Or how do I submit that? And then, how can we meet here to do these minutes? And like, how do they complete the work if I don't have a printer? And it got to a certain point where like I had to educate myself on this platform because I had no idea how to use it. And then being a teacher, my screen could look completely different from your screen. So how I would submit work and stuff would definitely look different than mine because I had everybody and they only had their certain thing. So it was like a trial run for about a week, I want to say, that the school actually still did the hard copies if you couldn't do the teams, but you would just have designated times to come pick up a packet type thing. And then that following week, so now it's week 4 into this shenanigans, that they're like, no more packets. Nobody's coming to school anymore. We can hand out food to help you guys, but that's it. Like, no. And so it was, for the rest of the year, it was just a bunch of, email here, phone call there, like, me on the phone with my admin, and then they're on this email, and then this parent is emailing me through this. And it was a lot, especially trying to, I had one family who they didn't speak any English. The parents spoke Mandarin. And so like the little kid that I had in my class, he was really good about, I'll be like, hey, go tell your mom this. And he'd be like, okay. And he could totally do it. But now not having that, I had to like reach out to another teacher at a different school, send them a message to translate. They had to send it back to me. And then the only way we could communicate was through email. So at this point too, it was hard for parents because there were so many platforms of communication or work. They got overwhelmed on which one to mostly use. Like we have our email. We have our thing called Parent Square, which is kind of like Facebook for your classroom type thing, which our school normally used anyway. Then we had Microsoft Teams, which you could also communicate with the parents and teachers and stuff. And it was a lot. It was a lot for parents. And so what I decided to do is go on to this other website that I learned from my old mentor teacher, was called Class Dojo. And it's a very, very, I love it. It's a very, very simplified version of Facebook for your classroom, basically. And I already used it in my class to give the kids points for things. So they had like these little monsters that were like their monster. And every time you made like a good choice, you would get like a point. And then if you made a poor choice, you take away some. And then whoever had the most points, they would get my treasure box. So like the kids were kind of familiar with it, which helped. And so what I did is I got everybody and I dumped them onto this page, and I said, don't parent square me, don't email me through Teams and stuff like that. Just do everything on here and I will be on here, because it was very simple. And what was cool about Class Dojo is that there's actually a translating button on there. So parents can go through and translate whatever message. And then I didn't have to go through this Microsoft Teams channel, this email or thing here and there. That like, this is an app, it can go on your phone, it can go anywhere, and we all know parents have phones. Like, let's be honest here. And so they could go through and translate whatever message I would put for the kids. So it really helped. I would go on every day and post like a to-do list of what they needed to accomplish, what I was looking for, if they had any questions, they could private message me, and things like that. And then that way, Microsoft Teams, they would just submit their work, and that was it. So then after about a week or two of that, our charter system warned us that we're changing our grading. And they said now that if you don't complete it, we have to stay true to our grading system and give them a 0. And if you did complete it, or however, grade it accordingly how you would do it in your classroom. And you're like, okay. A lot of parents were overwhelmed with how much work we were giving them. And so it was really hard for me to squish it down, because I had already chopped it to be as simple as I could, but still completing the guidelines or the expectations of us teachers of what we had to do. So like the packet, I mean, the packet at the beginning, oh my God, it would be like 50 something pages, just because it was a week's worth of work. And you have to think of everything that we would accomplish in one day, which isn't like insane, but like parents don't know, like, no, like this is actually simple. You should see what we get them to do throughout the day. And they're like, oh my God, no way. This is so much work. How do you do it? And I'm like, see,
and that's
we're not just glorified babysitters here, people.
Yeah, and I think that's like, I think that's where like I one of quote unquote the positive of this whole situation was that I thought it was like, wow, I think there were a lot of, I'm not saying all parents, but there were, I would say, a sizable amount of parents that took teachers for granted and didn't realize like, hey, like being a teacher, teaching someone, especially like foundational stages when you're just a kid and you're like, your attention span is like a goldfish. You're like, it's like, how do you like, I think like one thing is like teachers are like, oh, now, I mean, parents are like, oh, wow, now like I get it. Like, or kind of get like a resemblance of like, wow, you guys do a lot of work. I'm like, and now I feel like at least it should be a better appreciation of teachers, because I don't think like, again, parents realize unless you have like firsthand experience or understand like how hard teaching is to begin with, and how much you have to do because there is guidelines, as you mentioned. So that's one of the positive like I wanted to ask. On that note, like, have you had any parents or heard the stories of parents that have like shown more appreciation towards teachers, like realizing like, oh wow, of like what's on the scale of this thing has happened?
I have, yes. And I think it genuinely actually, throughout social media, like seeing more parents post things or teachers sharing posts of parents, that they do realize, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. And, no matter what grade level you teach, I'm kind of, a little bit biased because I am a kindergarten teacher, where, like you said, it's foundational. They're 5 years old when they come to me. I'm still trying to teach them how to be a human first. Like, like I'm the one who has to show them, like, this is how you zip your pants. This is how you use the bathroom. This is how you wash your hands. This is, if somebody makes a poor choice, you don't punch them in the face. Like, and then you're like, okay, cool. So social skills, then how do you interact with people? Academics, time management, and then teaching English. So there's like a whole bunch of hats for kindergarten teachers, or personally, like for me, that I have to go through, that I think it was crazy and so interesting to see how parents saw that.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh my gosh, like I had no idea. And so after a period of kind of minimizing the work, technically it was like we got it down to like 1 page of math, 1 page of literacy, a civics, and then if you wanted to do special areas, like an art thing or something like that, if you wanted to each day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would put it up like the week before. And so that way I accommodated parents after a while, realizing like, oh my gosh, yes, we're asking these parents to do this. At the beginning, I was like, come on, guys, like, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing all this work for you guys. I'm laying everything out. I even still did teaching videos for the kids. So like a 15-minute video where I walked you through the worksheet. And it got to a certain point where like some kids were just not doing the work. And I'm like, I don't know how else to help you. Mm-hmm. And then those kids that never did their homework, there was one family that I didn't talk to for months. No matter how many times I tried to get in touch with them, email, Parent Square, Class Dojo, admin, like it got to a certain point where I was like, I don't know what to do with this child because she's technically failing. Like, and she's not contacting me. So I'm like, what's happening? And come to realize, it's kind of role reversal. Like we're asking these parents to do this academic work with the kids. But then also because I'm in a low income area, a lot of our parents work 2 jobs and they didn't, they were not, a good amount of them obviously were not let go because there were a bunch of little things and here and there. So I had to adapt my work for the kids where I uploaded a week before because I would have one family who would just do all the work on the weekends and then the kid wouldn't do anything during the week. So it got to a certain point is, do what you can as much as you can in the time frame that you have it. I just need the work. And it's a bummer because as 5-year-olds and as kids, they crave routine. They crave structure, knowing what's going to happen, especially in my area where, kids are coming from, which is not bad. I just want to say this is not bad, but like kids coming from single parent families, kids coming from living with grandma, and now grandma's trying to learn how to use the computer on how to teach this. Like it was very different. Mm-hmm. And it really made me sad because those kids that needed that structure, needed that and craved that, I could only do so much. And it got to a certain point where I want to say March, God, it would have already been April at this point, about mid-April, where I had a breakdown because I felt like a failure. I was like, I don't know what else to do. And I don't know how to help these parents to a certain, like, or these kids, because I'm an in-person person trying to communicate and talk to these families through only computer or only email. Like, like when you text somebody, stuff gets mistranslated or tone or things. And here I'm trying to talk to families who are speaking broken English, or families like, that don't speak English. And how do I communicate with them and ask them to teach their 5-year-old this math when they can't even read the directions? Like, no matter what I tried to do, whether it was make the videos, to teach the concept, to do the worksheet, it got to the point where I would just make the video and all you had to do was put your kid in front of the computer and they just did the worksheet along with me because I didn't know. And so instead of teaching a skill and applying it, I just walked you through the worksheet because it was what parents needed at that time. they needed, not the skill to teach it. They needed you to walk through this worksheet because they couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was definitely really hard. And especially the kids, and, a lot of second language kiddos, some of them are at a very, very slower pace compared to the other two kindergarten classes because they're trying to process the English, translate it, then pump out work.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas like I had the other two kindergarten classes were on like double digit addition. I was like, we're not even close to that. But your kids, what you need to do, and here and there, it was really hard, especially me mentally, still like being a person too, like I suffer from anxiety, that my flow was thrown. My routine of getting up at 5:30 every day, breakfast here, this here, lunch here, like my life was already thrown. And then on top of that, trying to teach 29 kids whose second language is English, it was a lot.
Right. With that.
And I think parents it was good though. Parents started to realize like, oh my gosh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got a lot of thank yous to like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing that. I greatly appreciate that. Or I didn't even think of that. And I mean, you can ask Kevin, like I would be answering emails at like 9:00 at night, weekends. And he's like, put your phone down. I was like, I can't. Like, I haven't talked to this parent in 2 weeks. Like, I need to answer this.
Right. For those who don't know, Kevin is soon to be husband, right? You guys are still fiance, almost. And yeah, so for like Kevin's awesome. Also has Kevin just overall a really cool guy. Not only that, like he can hang on to things forever. And I mean like literally his grip strength is massive. I'm super jealous of. But yeah, I was touching upon like how things has like thrown off your routine, right? Taking a little bit of break from the kids, but like how, beside obviously like now your work life is completely thrown off, right?
Yeah.
Like you normally as a teacher, I mean I'm not a teacher, but I understanding because my mentor was a teacher, like the work is never really just done between the 9 to 5. There's always like preparing plans for like next year, or the courses, or even the aspect of homework, of things that are reviewed. And now, like as a teacher, is it common that now the workload has become like basically all the time, almost like kind of thing? It's not like as intense, but it is pepper throughout the day. Is that kind of like a common theme that you've recognized, not just yourself as teacher, but like from other teachers and stuff like that? It's like,
yeah.
and then like my question to you, like how are you handling it, right? Like obviously hopefully talking helps you being therapeutic, which is another reason for this podcast, is like people can understand where you're coming from. But also like how are you handling it? Are you like what like lifestyle things has helped you kind of quote unquote cope with things?
Yeah. It was definitely a learning process because I'm one for my mental stability. I like my routine. I like knowing what's going to happen. Like it's comforting to me, and trying to learn something new, trying to do what I do on a completely different platform was very difficult, to say the least. It was training my brain on how to switch and teach things and stuff. And I mean, it was kind of funny too, because the parents actually got to see like how I am when I teach, when I would do like my YouTube videos, because I created a channel for them.
Nice.
And so they could see how I taught things and how I worded things, because you have some parents who are like, he said this the other day, I didn't know where he got it from. And then they see me teaching, they're like, like,
nice.
Because I'm very animated when I teach. Like that's why I work well with 5-year-olds. Like I'm also a child, but like it was hard to switch my brain to that also with me and my life. And probably the second week, Kevin and I actually ended up working out a routine. And so for the first couple weeks, he was still going to work. He was still doing his office and stuff like that, which was good. So he actually like went somewhere and, felt productive. But I have like two sides to how I felt about the whole thing. There is the one way where like it was hard because I was out of my routine and I didn't go somewhere every day to work, to be around 29 kids, to just be like on, because you have to be on and doing all these things. But then on the flip side, being and working from home was kind of nice, as weird as it was. It was, I got to sleep in till like 7:30 every single day. So I actually had like normal sleep. I wasn't mentally exhausted by the end of the day. I was, like I did things here and there around the house to kind of just life, and then, obviously Netflix. But because we were required to be on our computer, on Teams, answering parent stuff from 8 to 3 every day. But let's say you answer all the emails and do all what you got to do until like 11 a.m. Then what do you do for the rest of the day? And there wasn't, unlike my other teachers, they had their Zoom thing every day with their kids. So from like 2 to 3, they would do an hour. So they had things that required them to be present and do stuff. So they had like a set thing. Whereas all we were told was be on your computer from 8 to 3 every single day, active, what that meant. And that, but our school, we were not allowed to use Zoom. For privacy concerns and things like that, we weren't required to meet every day. We weren't these things. And so I would put out like parents, like, if you need help, I'm here. If you need this, I'm here. Like, I'm available. And I would get nobody. So that I'm just sitting around until 3 o'clock. And then you're like, okay, cool, because I can mentally close my computer now. But then my phone would blow up because all my emails and ParentsWare and all my Class Dojo would just go to my phone and be like, oh, I had trouble with this worksheet today. How do I do this? And I'm like, people, I was available from 8 to 3, like, for all of this. And so it didn't stop. Mm-hmm. So it was weird. So then I would be doing that stuff after. But the positive of it was, okay, I got to sleep until 7:30 every single day. Had like a normal person sleep. I actually got to eat a full-blown breakfast. I got to eat a full-blown lunch. I could pee whenever I wanted. Like, and I wasn't mentally exhausted. I ended up, since Matt would post the free range workouts online, I actually started to work out in our garage. And to go from not working out because the only time I would, because I'm not a morning person, would be after school. And by like 4 o'clock, I'm done. Like, right. This here, it just so much. Here down, great. And it would be hard to get that mental, like, yeah, I want to go through and just all this weight or just this strength that just this up, not there.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, hey, how's your day? And I'm like, fuck off, I don't want to talk, because like I've talked all day. I've talked to 5-year-olds all day. And I'm tired of hearing my voice. Like, I can't tell you how many times like we've had dinner and I'm just like
just quiet.
Well, how was your day? And I was like, fine. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, like, it's just done. Mm-hmm. And so being able to actually have normal people sleep, not be freaking out what's going to happen the next day. Okay, I need to move this kid's chair over here because he's poking that kid with a pencil. Or like, how am I going to talk to this parent because this kid keeps peeing his pants? Like, all these things that are happening. It takes me like an hour or 2 to fall asleep. It's dumb. Mm-hmm. And like, this person next to me, he could count sheep. 10 sheep and he's fucking out. Like, dude. And so like, normal people sleeping in, eating whenever, peeing whenever, and just being able to work out and take care of myself was a positive that I came from this. I actually felt better as a person. Mm-hmm. I even took up yoga for a couple weeks. I found this thing like online. It's just something. Because I needed something to occupy my time where I just wasn't sitting there just feeling like,
rocking in your chair, yeah.
Yeah, so finding little things, and like Zero, oh my God, that dog, he has gotten so many walks and played with, like he's on cloud 9.
He's so
And
spoiled, probably.
yeah, and it was good because then I started to develop a routine at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kevin started working at home too at this point, which was good. So we both got up at the same time. We both had breakfast. Our computers would be on. We'd work hardcore till probably about noon, miscellaneous little things. I would take Zero for a walk at 9 a.m. and then like at 3. And we started to have this routine at home, and I felt better. I felt better as a person. I felt I was more in tune, especially to like, being there for Zero, because like he's just chilling at home all day by his lonesome, and now he's pubbed. His parents are home all day, like, and he gets played with all the time. So like that, and then that in itself, just feeling better as a person. You're like, wow, actually like can take care of myself. This is crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just finding little things like that to do
Mm-hmm.
was nice. So that's how I feel about the whole thing. Like you have the one side where like your routine is thrown off, especially for teaching, to just go instantly to an online platform when people, you think about it, everybody has a certain way they learn, whether it's like visual learner, tactile learner, auditory, like to just dump everybody now onto one learning thing, like that's hard. If
Mm-hmm.
your brain is not built for online classes, like mine wasn't, I had like 2 online classes in college and awful. Like awful. Like didn't care. Stuff was like meh. Like it just, that's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And so as me being in college, that was hard. I can only imagine how doing that for 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
And then here these kids can't leave their house. Their parents are still pretty much learning, so they're being dumped at grandma's or grandpa's or aunts, whoever. And then they come home from work, have to do work with their kid online, and then, make sure that they're doing it right. Like I had a lot of parents email me and like, is this right? Do I need to do anything else? Like, I feel like this is not enough, or is it? And things like that. I'm like, whoa, simple. Like at this point, I'm just pumped that you guys are doing stuff. Like,
Yeah. I
because
think, yeah,
that was
that's,
nuts.
yeah,
Because
that's a thing.
my other 2 teacher friends, their work was not required. And so if the kids didn't do it, then that like, so they're still doing all those videos, like I told you. They're
Right.
still uploading all this work, and all their effort is just going out the window because they would get maybe 7 kids out of 29 kids every day participating. Whereas like our stuff was required, and I was like, wow, like I got 28 kids stuff of work today. Like, sorry.
That's
like,
pretty good.
I know, which was
That's like
nuts.
an
Like
A+.
after a while, like we got a routine down. I was in like my class, we pulled through, and it was awesome. I have to say, like once everything started to like flow better and expectations, I think that window of a month of just was nuts. But again, the hard part was every school district was different.
Yeah.
And so here I got my parents who were, most of them didn't speak English, or these kids and their efforts, like were so there, so proud of them. Like I have no words. Whereas hearing from my other teacher friends, like I feel bad. They're bending over backwards, still doing professional development hours and these videos and these worksheets, and they even have families. So talk about that being on a whole other level of their kids have to do stuff, whereas they still have to do stuff and be a mom.
Yeah,
like
that's
what?
Yeah, even
I
I got a
can't
couple
even
of the
imagine
guests.
having kids right now.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
I have a couple of the guests that I do want to talk about, like how is like the atmosphere of a parent during this whole thing,
Right?
of everything. I was like, so like I'm excited to see, like, from their perspective.
Yeah.
For the audience, I am a single guy, no responsibilities whatsoever. So this is kind of like, I'll do a podcast for fun because, to
Right?
be honest, I'm mostly bored out of my mind. I'm like, I need to do something interaction, please. Let me do
Yes.
something. So this is my excuse. So there you go. My good deed to society. But yeah, no. So So, talking, about like the whole balancing act, what is it that you've learned most about yourself during this continuing developing situation that we're in right now?
Oh, that's a good one. Look at you, Alex. That's a good question.
It's like I've prepared for something.
Uh, I have to say, probably taking more time for myself. I have to say, you know, the way I am in my personality, I always put everybody and everything before me. Whether it's Kevin, whether it's Zero, whether it's, my kids, my students, or other people. I always them and will bend over backwards, lose sleep, not eat, um, to make sure that everybody is good or everybody's okay. And I think this provided an opportunity for me to take a step back and be like, yo, like you are already dealing with anxiety problems and things that you are dealing with up here that you can't control everything. And, there are so many, and that's a whole other thing, but like just mental illness type thing of, there have been days where I've lost sleep over one thing. And half the battle is you trying to tell yourself everything's okay, da 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 da, brain trying to talk to your heart and deal things that was hard in itself. And then teaching and then taking care of, like, that's a whole bubble. And
Mhm.
so I think taking time for myself and doing this and being quarantined at home and little things like that actually really helped. It helped to, know myself better and know what I needed and things like that it kind of came at a good time.
Mhm.
Like our school went through a lot of changes this year. We lost like 15 teachers, like insane. And then our head of school left too. So, and where our school works, we kind of cover for each other. We don't
Mhm.
hire other people from outside. So our workload just, it was a lot.
Oh, it's stacking
And
up.
I
Yeah.
think spring break was needed for teachers for our school to be like, ooh.
Mhm.
But all of this, I think it actually came, I know this is going to sound shitty, but like came at a good time.
I
Like,
don't think that sounds shitty at all. I think in common denominator from what I've talked, to people in general, it's like in also retrospective to myself was that this whole thing kind of brought like a brand new perspective of like it's so easy to go day by day, to go
mm,
like through the flow of the
yep,
motion and stuff like that. And like especially when you're in a position when you are caring for others, whether you're a teacher or nurse or things like that, it's easy of like how much you forget about yourself. So one, super glad that like you're able to be in a healthier like state
yeah,
overall, and things of that sort. So I think it's like it was a major like wake up call of like, hey guys, wake up. This is like way different. And
hmm,
now it's so weird to think about, but like now transitioning to like looking to the future, it's going to be different for a while.
hmm,
Like I don't even know how any school system, how things are going to be operating or what's a battle plan.
yeah,
Like like from your perspective, like is it going to be, because right now we're still like, I don't know, I haven't been in school forever. Like we're in summer, right?
yeah,
Right. So like August is when it starts to back up again, I think. Right. So like right, like until August, like do you guys still gonna are your or like your training plans or like your school plans, is it gonna be online still? You know?
right.
Especially with like now of in the recent history that we're in right now as of June 7th, with the whole George Floyd thing and the protests and everything going on, there's still
Mhm.
no vaccine. I think we're in, I saw the stats, unfortunately, in Arizona, Maricopa County especially, the jump rate has gone quite a bit higher.
Mhm.
So I think is in our immediate area, there's going to be, I think we're probably going to be online for a bit, even with the beginning of next year. And
Mhm.
then when things go back up, what is it going to be like? Trying again the whole scramble to go back to normal. So
Mhm.
my question is like to you is like, because, things are going to change, things are going to go
Yeah.
back to a normalcy, whatever the fudge that means. Um, what are you going to do, Kelly, to make sure those good habits that you learn about taking care of yourself stays with you?
I think, like you said, everything is going to be a hint of different going forth in life for forever, for the rest of everybody's life. And I think, like even Kevin brought this up, that taking what we have experienced in quarantine to create, and there was an article he sent me to, I'm gonna have to find it, about creating a new normal. And I think that in itself is going to be very interesting, but also really cool to see. You see during these quarantine times that like I can't even tell you how many times like I looked over like driving around or something like that, and there's like families playing baseball at the park. Have you seen a lot of that? No. Or have
Yeah,
you
not
seen
recent.
like, families out for bike rides? Like this allowed us to get creative in doing things to, be occupied, but taking away things that seem normal to us: movies, restaurants, bowling, I don't know, things that with everything closing, we had to get creative at home, which in turn made everybody spend more time together and doing things like that. Like Kevin and I bought like a hoop ton of board games. Oh my God. Or, he got creative and made like a little crate seat for zero on the back of our bike so we'd go for bike rides. And I think taking into consideration this, creating a new normal of things that you necessarily don't have to go out for this, we could do this, is going to be very interesting to see. Now, I know the governor gave all go for us to resume school in August. However, our charter system, we haven't heard our guidelines of what our expectations are to go back. I know there has been a thing floating around on Facebook that um, about CDC guidelines for school resuming in the fall. Things like desks need to be 6 feet apart, or like kids need to walk one way down the hallway, or you need to have hand washing, like all this stuff. How true that is, though, I don't know, which is
Hmm.
why I don't believe it. Until our school from the up above tells us exactly what we need to do, then we can go from there. Now, like you said, there might be an opportunity for families to learn online. I don't know. Um, there might not be. It might just be like, well, everybody back to at it again. There might be things like that where we just don't know.
Hmm.
And I hate to say it, we're probably going to find out a week or two before school starts, which is dumb, but it is what it is.
Yeah,
And but that's, yeah.
yeah,
So
it's same.
it should be interesting because I can't form a routine per se
Hmm.
or things to do for me, to answer your
Hmm.
question, until I know what my work situation is going to be.
Right.
Like I heard, for example, like there might be an opportunity for parents to do online and in class. And I was like, so are they expecting one teacher to do double work? Or are they going to hire another teacher to be strictly online for this and another teacher to be strictly in class?
Hmm.
So I don't know.
Right.
Our work days might look different. I think it would be really cool if we, to have, let's say 30 kids, if we did 2-hour blocks every day, like 10 kids here, 10 kids here, 10 kids here for 2 hours each, do all of the academic. I can't even tell you how much I would accomplish in that. Like, to only work with 10 kids, are you serious? Like,
Yeah, when you said
beautiful.
29, I'm like, that's
29 5-year-old little children.
I don't know
Like,
how you keep saying I would have this is why I could never be a teacher. I don't have the patience for it. So again, always have massive like respect for all teachers, period, because I'm like it's like I feel like 5-year-old kid, and this is a terrible analogy I'm gonna say to preface, it's like a bunch of kiddies that are put in a bag and you shake the bag and just like they're just bouncing off like a really bad cartoon.
it's like herding cats is what
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
yeah.
It's just, and from the beginning of the year, like last year, I had one little girl, not a lick of English, and I didn't hear her talk for months. She would just sit there, be a sponge and soak it up. And then I had another kid the previous year, he came from Russia, spoke nothing but Russian. And then like by the end of the year, he would write full-blown sentences and have conversations. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
That's awesome,
Yeah. Kids are
So
sponges and resilient at the same time.
it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be interesting from a kindergartner's teacher perspective on how to do things, because let's say you change the school where they can only walk one way down the hallway, like that does anything, but that's just my opinion. How, like, I'm that teacher that is teaching the kids on how to walk in a line. I have to tell them what a line is first, then teach them how to walk in a line. And they're 5, their brains are all over the place. So what's to say if I give the kid, let's say, a bathroom pass to go walk down the hallway, what's to say he or she is not doing that? Then am I held accountable for it because I'm not in the hallway watching over them? So it's going to be different when we go back, because I don't know what the expectations are going to be. Ergo, I don't know how I'm going to fall into that. Like, are our hours going to be the same? Are ours going to be longer? Are we going to have more student hours? Are we after school? Are we going to have more teacher hours? We have a program before school and after school called Early Bird and Late Bird, where we do breakfast, or, and the kids get there by 7. Is that going to be a thing? Or are we still going to serve food? And then after school programs, like, are there going to be opportunities for kids to do clubs and sports? Where as teachers, specifically for our school, we're the ones doing it. So, if I chose to do a club after school, how are my hours going to look? Are they going to break it up? And so I don't know.
Digital board game group. That's what you guys should do.
Yeah, right.
Just like all digital.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting, because with the hours, what the expectations are, how is everything going to look? I can't form a routine or how I fit in that situation until I know, which is dumb. But again, it goes back to me putting everything before me, but I need to know so I can put stuff in.
Like, I think but I think at the very least, like, you already was I forget the saying. It's like half the battle is knowing, or whatever, is like recon, something like that. English is hard. So I think like you already know what you need, like what's been good for you, and obviously this is a developing situation. So once we know what it is, I think you'll find your own how to incorporate it and things of that sort. Looking into the future, what is one thing, like what are a couple of things that you're super excited to be able to do again?
Ooh. I don't know. I have to say, like, I'm a big movie person. I love going to the movies. And that's going to be interesting how that's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I'm that, super basic person, I guess you could say, that like my sweet ideal date is dinner and a movie. Like, how is that going to look now? How are restaurants, going to look, and how is it not going to feel weird? And then like kind of wrong eating in a restaurant when a bunch of other people are around you. I don't know. And then how is the movie?
Man,
how are the movies going to look? Like, how many people are going to be allowed to go there? Is it going to feel crowded? You remember, like, oh, we need to get to the movies so early so we can get a seat.
Yeah.
Or
Uh-huh.
like, is that going to be a thing now? Are we not going to have concessions? Are we not going to have, like, I don't know, like, even we were driving past, we went to Dick's yesterday because Kevin wanted to get some golf stuff. I don't know. And we passed Guitar Center. And there was a line outside Guitar Center where they would only let in X amount of people. Everybody else would be standing outside. They had to, check it off. And is that going to be the new normal for shopping, for getting into certain areas that they're going to have to, limit people, and this is going to be like the new procedure or something like that. Like, I went into my bridal shower is next weekend, and so I went to go find a dress, something that anybody would be like, oh, I need to go to the store, I just have to go do this. Something so easy was not now. Like, I went to two Plato's Closets, and like that was fine. Now a lot of people in there, but the people behind the cashier wore masks. You're like, okay. And then there was another store that I went to, but I couldn't go in unless I was wearing a mask. And you're like, okay, cool. Like, I brought mine just in case, Costco. Like, it's going to be interesting how we're moving forward on what's going to be, like you said, like the new normal, or what we're looking forward to, because it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same as it was. I don't want to say we were asking for it, but like, here we are just going about our day, nonchalant, like everything's fine, shoving a boatload of people in Lowe's, and movies and like concerts and like all of this. But like, here's like a bajillion people out there protesting and rioting, just saying to all the like social distancing. And then of course the numbers are going to spike because everybody's out, and same thing here, we're all supposed to go back like like everything's fine. I don't know the amount of people that are still taking I should still stay home as much as I can into play. Whereas like I am, like, I'm not going to like go out and about. Like, I went out, yes, for a dress, but like,
it's for your bridal shower. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like, for example, like going to the nail salon, like I was talking to Ashley, she goes to the same nail salon that I do. And that's okay. So there it is. That is the one thing that I'm super pumped to like go back and do, because like I got my dad's nails. I can't, like, they're just short child fucking baby fingers. Like, I can't. And like, I need to feel like a girl. And she was telling me that usually nail salons are pretty good though. Like, if they're ever washing their hands, they all wear masks because like stuff's flying.
They've always wore masks to begin with.
They always. And I guess the place now, they obviously are wearing masks, but now there's a plexiglass shield between you and the person. And you have to walk in, you instantly have to wash your hands, and you have to sign a waiver. Okay. I'm like, well, how many people were there? She was like, not a lot. Like, I think she said three clients, but I don't know if that means like per person, because there at a time it was family owned. So there was probably like 8 or 9 of them, family, and then people in there. So there would be like 40 something people in there. Like, is that going to be the new normal of like, we're going to have to schedule appointments now? Are we going to have to schedule times like reservations for restaurants now, and they're like, you need to eat from here to here? One of our friends did that. They said in Vegas, like, they had to set up from 7 to 9, and then at 9 you're out. So there's no more of the late night talks until the all hours. Like, you out, dude. Yeah. So I don't know. So I found this lady on Instagram through one of my teaching assistants. She goes and she does nails out of her house. I feel more comfortable going to her because it just would be me and her. I'm still doing something I'm really excited about and really pumped about, and doing that. I feel better about that. So I wonder if more people are going to do things by themselves like that now for a while. I feel more comfortable doing that, but I don't know. It's going to be weird because I am a homebody. I like being home. I like, my Netflix. I like,
Mm-hmm.
spending time at home, and that's just something personal to me. Whereas Kevin, who's a busy bee, has to be doing something. And that's just how his brain works. So he likes going to work every day because it gives him something to do. And
Mm-hmm.
when he works from home, he finds miscellaneous little projects that he does. And I think it depends on people's personalities of what are you excited to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what I may be excited to do may not be the same as it was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
I was watching a bunch of like because I watch the news. Never thought I'd be one of those person that you actually is like I want to know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
Which also you brought up a point earlier regarding that is like I have to disconnect online because it is like a
I
and I'm
still
like
haven't, yeah, I
yeah
still haven't
it's
uploaded Facebook back on my phone because I
yeah
can't.
it's a lot and even I'm like Jesus I feel like oh God there's so much going on. But no I was watching a video on YouTube which was like basically with pandemics and
Mhm.
how there are three there we go methods of like three methods on how you could like do it. It was like basically the first method was like basically everyone go out do like the rest and then pandemic is going to do Darwinism and just kill whatever is stupid. Then there
Right.
is the extreme other end which was like everyone quarantine never get out. It's like if you go out it's like Fallout 4 nuclear warfare you're gonna
Right.
die. And then there was the other one which is I think where we've adopted and all of these like work on timeline. The first one, which was like everyone go out and Darwinism, was like you can probably get this resolved within a year. Like
Right.
it'll die out. Everyone will be immune because so many people have died.
Yeah.
And then the other one was like the other extreme one would take like decades because it would take forever, kind of thing. But like we're kind of doing this thing, and with like I realized like wow, this is not like a seasonal thing, or this will be like this is affecting us for probably the next few years where it's like obviously there's gonna be like the new normal is gonna be different and then there's gonna be one where like vaccines and everyone will be immune or whatever and things like that and that's gonna change the whole thing. It's almost like a weird like 9/11 except like 9/11 was just one deciding factor day and that
Yeah.
changed the whole world. And now this is like something that's like has happened over years and it's going to affect the whole world on how
Yeah.
that's affected. So I think we're doing like the method of like we're doing a combination of like quarantine safe go and there's going to be peaks and curves and how things are
Mhm.
going to work. So it is interesting to see how things are going to happen and we just have to play by ear and there's going to be a new normal for everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
like
like even like Michigan right now,
mhm,
and that's where I'm flying out to on Tuesday. So like that's gonna be interesting going through the
mhm,
airport and doing stuff that would be normal, like, oh yeah, I'm totally just gonna hop on a flight and fly up and see you for a week. Like things that would be normal. And I fly up every summer. I try to see my dad and my family up there. And so we're doing my bridal shower up there, and that has kind of been chaotic for the past couple months, not knowing if we could do it
mhm,
because Arizona here, and if I remember correctly, like 2 days ago, we just hit 1,000 deaths, whereas
mhm,
Michigan has been like in the teens of like thousands of deaths. They
mhm,
have been on a significant, totally different plane than here, and they are finally lifting their stay-at-home order tomorrow, where we have been out and about as much as we can.
mhm,
They are, even though the stay-at-home order is lifted, you physically cannot go into any place without having a mask.
mhm,
They have the right to refuse you to let you in if
mhm,
you don't have one. And they're up there just more, I don't want to say hyphy, that's not a word, but it's more serious.
yeah,
So I am super nervous because Arizona is not as bad, and I have developed taking cautions
mhm,
and things for my personal beliefs. It's going to be different being up there, not doing things that would be normal to do.
mhm,
Um, because it is serious up there and things like that. And I can't complain as much because we have friends that have had to cancel their weddings, have had to move things. And, I'm kind of bummed that, when I do have my bridal shower, pretty much I think everybody's going to be wearing a mask. And
Hmm.
I was like, guys, like, calm down. Like,
It's
everything's
called a
going to be
veil, Kelly. It's
yeah,
called a veil.
I'm like, it's going to be okay. Like, everybody's like going to, and I'm like, is that's what it's going to be like? Is my bridal shower going to be everybody, 6 feet apart? We're all going to talk through masks and act like everything's fine, but it's not. Like,
Hmm.
and I don't, and that comes off bad for me, but like here, it's just I've been staying at home. Every time I go out, I have hand sanitizer in my car. Like, I hit it every time I go. Like, you develop something, and then now I'm going to be plopped into this where it's more serious up there. And the flu always has been in Michigan. Oh my God, when I lived there, wrecked. Like, I was not in a good health place when I was there because of all the different pollens and grass and rain and then cold and then like 80 and then it's like 70 and then it goes down to 30 and snows all in like a 3-day span. Like, it's
Yep.
just crazy. Whereas here, like, you're outside and you have to think of it like, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but you have to think of it like the typical health things. Like, us humans, we need vitamin D. So be outside, be out and about, not cooped up in your house, have the windows open. Go for walks, go do things where we have the luxury of doing that here in Arizona. We do, because we have beautiful weather, like, majority of the time. Yes, it's hot as balls out right now, but like, it's just there. Like, here, you're hot. Yes, there's dirt and dust and things like that, and they're like air quality, and you're like, cool, I just won't go outside. Like, oh no, it's gonna be sunny tomorrow.
Hmm.
Whereas there, like, the weather patterns would change so much that majority of the time Michigan is in fall to winter season. There's only probably like 2 or 3 months where it's like 80s and sunny. Everything else is just like 50s and down. And here they are, like, our winters up there, we would go months without seeing the sun. Months. It would be constantly overcast. So like when Kevin would tell me that it would snow in Flagstaff and then be sunny out, weird. Like, that
Hmm.
sounds so strange to me, because anytime in Michigan it would snow, you would just, for like November until probably March, wouldn't see the sun. Nothing. So how do you think that does for people mentally, but
Hmm.
also feeling good? I mean, here you are, like, 9 months out of a year, cooped up in your own house, and you can't even open the windows. No wonder the flu's terrible, and everybody's inside, so you're just passing it to all your family members. Like, it just, you're not outside, you're not doing things, you're not being active and things like that. So yeah, that totally makes sense to me why the flu and or COVID would be worse up there right now.
Hmm.
And people need to remember too, and everybody's like, oh, we haven't found a vaccine yet. It's people, you guys. People are trying to come up with this. It's not some computer. It's
Hmm.
not it's people who are working their asses off trying to figure this out. Like, give it a second. Like, we're putting the best minds that we can to create these vaccines. Like, give it I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
give it some time.
I think also people don't realize that vaccines, like this is like because of this pandemic and COVID being like number one list of like we need to get it under control.
Mm-hmm.
I think people didn't realize like usually vaccine takes a very long time to get developed, like years. For
Yeah.
us to even being like within less than a year and be like in trials is
Right.
unheard of, like in medical
Yeah.
fields. And
Yeah.
so like, oh wow, we might have like resemblance or something that could give us boosted immunity to this thing by next year is legitimately like a medical marvel. It just, I
Right.
think like, I think a lot of people are just like, we're so used to like instant gratification that like we don't think of like, God, stuff takes time. Like
Mm-hmm.
give her a break, do what you can. I know it's not ideal, but hey, at least be grateful for that we are, for those who are alive. You know,
Yeah.
like there are people that I know who've gotten COVID, or I don't even know if I even had COVID, to be honest. Like who knows, because there's no testing. But like we're also, there's like, this has never happened to our scale before, right? But like
Yeah.
just be glad that like I'm existing right now and I'm not feeling like crap, Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, be
But this
happy with that.
also gives us a certain like ability to be like, hey, maybe I need to take better care of myself. This is exactly what quarantine
Hmm.
did for me. You get into your routines, you get into the predicting of like what you do every day and you just let it ride.
Hmm.
But, majority of the COVID patients are people who have underlying health problems.
Yeah.
Okay, you know what? Maybe in America, we need to take better care of ourselves. We need
Hmm.
to be like, know when to say no. We need to be better about walking every day or like drinking water,
Yeah.
vitamin C, vitamin D outside. Like you got to think of just the natural things. Like I take vitamins every day. Why? Because I work with buckets of germs every day. 5-year-olds.
Yep.
Like, I emergency when something comes on, I'm like, oh, it's, terrible air quality outside or it's pollen, hit that Flonase. Like you you have to learn to take better care of yourself and not be just chilling, letting life pass you by and things
Hmm.
like that. There are certain places in the world where it's not as bad as it is here
Hmm.
and things like that, but I think all of us got caught up in just life, that this just hit us and we're all like, oh my god, no vaccines, this is crazy, this is like crazy flu. And then you look at it and you're like, it's mostly old people or it's people who have underlying health problems, which nothing against old people, we're all going to be old eventually. But if we're young, healthy and strong, okay, maybe we need to take better care of ourselves so we don't have this happen to us again.
Hmm.
Or maybe we need to eat better. I mean, look at our country. How many obese people are there? like,
There's
like
a lot.
take better
I
care
used
of
to be one of
yourself.
them.
I mean, okay, but like you got to a certain point, and you're like, no, right?
Yeah.
You probably got to a certain point, you're like, I need to take better care of myself, and you are. And I think it takes something like this, where it was da 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 da. Ooh, maybe I need to take better care of myself because I was feeling like shit. Oh, now I know how I feel now.
Hmm.
And I think it takes something like this to be like, we need to be more cautious. We were shoving hundreds of people in Lowe's. Maybe we need to limit it. That's not terrible.
Hmm.
Yes, it's not ideal, but like maybe we need to chill.
Hmm.
Like, oh, let's shove everybody into here and max capacity at this concert and all breathe the same air. Maybe not a good look, people. Like,
I think I think for sure like COVID has just been a massive like wake up call to
yes.
the world in general to like make things are like or what is really more important, which is
Yes.
like the people that you're close with, like family, community, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like your health is another big one. That's definitely a big one now. I can't imagine how many like online courses or things have been like alternate or just like overall like cleanliness needs to be happening now. I think
Mm-hmm.
like it also like highlights of like it was also like a mandatory break for people to realize of like self-care, whether it was physical, emotional, like mental, whatever it needed to be.
Yeah.
Like like for shit I definitely had like a couple of like episodes like during this whole COVID thing where I'm like, wow, like my mom is older. She had me like later. She's now 65.
Okay.
And just a couple of weeks ago, she told me like, by the way, son, I got shingles. I'm like, ha, time out, time out. So for people who do not know, my father passed away like forever ago. So I'm a single like parent kid kind of thing. And then like my mom and I just like this whole COVID thing. She's older, so she's more prone. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, "Ah!" I'm like
Right.
losing my shit. So like like these are the things like that like not keeps in my mind. I'm like, okay, so like mom, like put yourself in a bubble, become bubble woman, do whatever
Right.
you need, just stay in bed, you know what, throw some pillows, whatever, kind of thing. But like I think like those are the things like it's just a really big wake up call. And like I think some people like either you're going to be the type of people who just do not get it, like how much of a wake up call this needs to be, and then
Yeah.
some who does. And however you take it, it's however you take it, but just like be more aware that things are different now, and that's just how it's going to be. So
Yeah.
it's not
But I
necessarily bad.
no, it's not.
Hmm.
But I also think that there are people out there who are taking it to an unnecessary level.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because I understand that you are scared and I understand that you are unsure, but we also can't just live in a bubble and be scared of life for the rest of life. That's not living. That's not, no. And I think there are so many, and that's what I think the problem is that there's so many different levels of people with their own take on this, that we're all kind of going about it in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know, there's people that were still like, spring break, Florida. Like, but there's also people who are like, this is just me though. Like, you know, I have a hard time believing in the masks, but that's just me because I'm like, it's a piece of cloth. Shit can get through. It's germs. You know, yes, it might help a little bit, but I don't think it's all life-saving or anything like that. That I think being conscious of like 6 feet apart, washing your hands, taking care of yourself, exercising, eating right, and being aware of it, again, like not going out, like I've been to the grocery store, like things like that, even during self-quarantine, that there's those group of people. Then there's people who are like, oh, I'm going to go out and do whatever, but I'll wear a mask. Everything's going to be great. So there's those people. Like, there's so many different levels of people that I think it's hard to navigate what exactly is right and what exactly is wrong. And we all have our own opinions and we all have our own beliefs in things like that. But I think taking care of ourselves, and I think this all just made us more aware of that we need to be more conscious. Like sporting events, you know, how many people use those bathrooms at, you know,
I don't even want to go to those bathrooms to begin with.
Right? Like you know, even when you go in there, like us females, like we don't even sit down on the seats. Like our thighs are strong by the end because we're squatting. You know, like
that's what I like. That just like that whole concept for me was just like going off topic. Where I'm like, I feel like as a guy, I'm like, cool. I can stand up and I can pee from like at least 6 feet away. You know, you want social distancing, that's what you get right there. But I'm like, as a female, I'm like, ooh, these bathrooms, I cannot imagine. I'd be terrified. Like, so.
And there's people that go into those bathrooms. So like, I go in, you know, you squat, you pee, and you're like, cool. But there are people who do that and still don't wash their hands after thousands of people are using this. And here you are shoving all of us into like, let's say a stadium for like a concert or something, or a basketball event. And there's thousands of people are like, oh, it's fine. Like, it's shit like that. And you're like, how? Like, there's a reason there's a sink in the bathroom in the first place, people. Like,
I think that's that whole thing. Like, I think we're just definitely, as a whole, COVID has just brought up a lot more of like hygienic kind of things of like just need to be more aware of.
like,
I think maybe
maybe
as a teacher, you probably definitely like there are 29 kids that are germaphobe that just stick their hands things they shouldn't be sticking on. You're like shield all the time.
I get it.
So like you're preemptively like aware of everything. I think there are like people who are just like are now getting it kind of thing of what's going on.
I should do this.
So I think
it's crazy. Like, I bleach water my tables and my kids' chairs. I Lysol out of it all day. We wash our hands. They come in for hand like, because there are buckets. I walked over one time. One of my kids had my water bottle and he was like,
oh no,
dude, what are you doing? So like, again, like as a teacher, we just had to like amp it up. But like, there's other people out there, they're like, oh, I peed, I don't know. Life will take care of it and not wash my hands. I'm like, no, you can't do that.
Hey, that's just gross.
That's just bad hygiene. And ew. Like,
it's just ew. But
it's just ew. And I just think,
man. So okay, on a more positive side, as like the future open, obviously you get your bridal shower coming up. Have you guys like locked down a date, or everything kind of just got thrown up in the air of like how things are with the whole wedding?
Luckily, we nailed a date as of last year. It's going to be this year on October 9th.
Nice.
And so luckily, and somehow all of this miracle working, we are having a fall wedding.
Nice.
So luckily, all of this stuff is happening right now, and stuff had to be postponed and or canceled and things like that. Whereas I'm not that worried because Arizona heat can kill anything, but that's just me. And our wedding venue people are not worried or anything like that. And so I'm not. But so luckily that hasn't changed. However, my brother and his fiance were supposed to get married last month. Can't. They had to cancel it and they had to move it. Kevin and I actually, from January, I think it was until May, we had a wedding to go to every month, which was nuts. So pumped for it though. I was like, this is great. And then we were only able to go to the one in January because everything else got canceled and or moved. So I can't even imagine being those people that had to move their entire wedding or cancel it. That bums me out.
Yeah.
Which makes me think wearing a mask at my bridal shower is not bad as it seems.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not ideal. But
I'm just saying you should make it fun. So like the mask, like draw penises for like bachelorette party or whatever, and call them veils. You know, that's what they really are. Yes. And then, you know, just whatever. Or like make sure everyone's matching. You can't have one that's all the color because the bride is the one focus. You know, that's how the shit works. No, but yeah, like great. If not, increase your Cox network and everyone's going to zoom in for it or whatever, or class dojo in and stuff like that. Just is like, yay kind of thing. But yeah.
So even though it is in the fall and it's still in place, what about the people, because half of my family lives in Michigan. That's where a majority of the people are coming from. So we're probably going to have a lot less people than we were expecting. We invited like 150 people, expecting like 125 is going to show up. Probably people are still going to be weirded out by all this and not want to travel, which I don't blame them. That's fine by me. That we're going to have even less. And I think that's interesting. At what point is everybody going to feel okay to do things or move on from things in a more cautious way? You know, like my little brother, his wedding got moved to July 11th. It's going to be so hot. But like, their amount of people that they were inviting, like it's going to be significantly less. And so they were like, well, do we still even have it and then have like a party later because like we want these people to be here and stuff like that. So that's interesting. And now that everything's open, you know, we had to take a pause on wedding planning because nothing was open. And so we finally were able to like go out and do like our food tasting. We have our cake tasting. So all these things that should be fun, that are like, oh my God, I'm getting married, or like things that brides are pumped to do, and just all of this had to take a pause to do things because of all this. Like this should be fun. This should be, you know, but I already have anxiety about what the bridal shower is going to be like and how we're going to be next week. And because of all this, like an unnecessary just thing about, you know, what happens if it rains in Michigan? Because like 60% of the time you have that probability. That like, what happens if it rains outside and we can't all be outside? So are we gonna have to like social distance inside the house? My own family, who I haven't seen in like years, you know? So it's just gonna be weird. It's gonna be interesting, but I don't want it to take away from the aspect of I'm so excited to see my family. You know, and my parents are divorced, so I have like 4 sets of, you know, from family, like we're all going to be together one time, and I'm so excited and blessed that there are people who are coming who I didn't expect to. Like my grandma. I'm like, you know, my grandma has underlying health conditions and they haven't left their house in Michigan. Like my stepmom would do their grocery shopping for them. Like they didn't leave, and she's going to come. Like, wow, like you are wanting to be there for me and for this, even though all of this is happening, you know, and that makes me feel special that she's actually taking the time and being there, even though it may be uncomfortable, you know?
I think us as humans, like, I think majority of humans are surprisingly quite adaptable to things. I mean, when it's like do or die, you're gonna do or die. Anyways, but like, you know, like you're a lot of people are like adapting. It's weird for me, but I'm like, you know, like like a little bit over a month ago, you know, there's a Fry's right across from me. I'm like, oh, I gotta go. And first time they played Face Shield, and I was a little bit weirded out, and it's just because like I was unexpecting. And now I'm like, it's a new normal. Like it's like, oh, it is what it is, kind of thing. And I think it's just like, whether in the aspect of your bridal shower or the wedding, it's going to be not what you expected because of this whole thing. It doesn't mean it has to be less of a wonderful time or memory that will
Yeah.
be in your life. And I think
Yeah.
like the humans in us are going to figure out a way to like bring those special like interactions. So I think we're just like going to be adaptable to things, and just like there is no normal, there never was. It's just the way that we were, and how
Yeah.
this thing is kind of was a wake up to things that we realized like we weren't prepared for, and now we are better prepared for down the road, and now we're
Yeah.
just adapting in general to that. But yeah,
Being more aware of it for sure.
yeah, for
And
sure.
adapting,
Yeah.
moving
So
forward,
yeah. So I think with that answers all my questions.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I think I have everything for the podcast. Unless, did you have any other final notes that you want to talk about or anything like that, Kelly?
Mm, no, I don't think so. I'm curious and interested, and the rest of the year should be very interesting, especially with like a rumor going around that we're going to get a second wave of this. That hopefully, knock on wood,
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't happen because people are smart enough to take the necessary precautions and be okay with saying no to certain things,
Mm-hmm.
that hopefully we can move forward and learn from all of this and be more cautious, but still living life, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
and not being scared to do things. Um, I'm interested to see how the school system is going to be, how school is going to be, with the amount of kids that we have, and what that's going to look like, and it's all unknowing. And I think if we all understand, not everybody, like, I don't know, not everybody, not everybody's not affected, but people, like you said, this is going to be the new normal. Things are going to be weird, things are going to be different, and it's just going to be interesting to see how everything plays out and what we can do in the future to make sure something like this doesn't happen again. And but not to make, like you said, like our wedding any less wonderful than it should be. Yes, it bums me out because when I was 5 I didn't dream of this happening, but like it's still happening, and people will be there who want to be there and feel comfortable being there despite all of this. And I think just being more cautious and more conscious of yourself and health care of yourself, and taking care that we can't just motor through life like that's not how it is or it
Mm-hmm.
should be. And I'm glad to see businesses are taking more precautions and being more understanding in things that would just, you would think would be common sense, like, oh, we're wiping down our tables every 30 minutes. Like, you weren't. Like, I think it's nice to see that everybody's doing that, but I don't think we need to take it to a certain extreme. But again, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
So
People are going to be how they're going to be and stuff like that. But yeah, but I think, yeah, hopefully this conversation was like therapeutic, and also at least from my perspective, like that highlighted a lot of things, at the very least on the teacher and like educational system, of like, holy cow, like how things and challenges teacher may have, and hopefully any other people who's going to see this going to be able to like, oh wow, yeah, I feel for it, kind of thing. So
well, I
yeah,
appreciate you talking with me and having me on and all that stuff. That means a lot. So thank you. And for listening to me
no
ramble.
worries. It's
Because I
always
tend to
good.
talk a lot.
No, it's all good. Like I again, like the point of the podcast is to be able to, like people to share like how they're feeling, and maybe as an avenue to be able to like decompress, like things you've been wanting to say but haven't or whatnot. Just helps out. Is it's therapeutic, and also like reconnect with people, because like I haven't seen you in weeks. Like you've
Right.
been like, it's been like weeks, and thank God for technology and how things are. But
Yeah.
like like when like in these times, there's a lot of time where people haven't been able to do these type of conversations. So
Right.
it's nice. This was full like transparency, like this is also helping my mental insanity because like I got nothing to do. I'm
Right.
bored as crap. I work out, I work, and that's it. I ran out of
Right.
things to watch on Netflix, guys. It's bad. So I'm like, ah. So,
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So Kelly, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the wisdom and also like the amount of like, holy crap, the educational system is going through. Just even a sample of it of like what's happening behind the scenes. So with that, I think we'll call it on the podcast. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me on, Alex. And I wish you luck in your future endeavors with all the other people. And I
We'll
feel
do.
very blessed to be the first person. So thank you.
No worries. All right. Bye, Kelly.
All right. I'll see you later.
How do I stop this recording?
You got to click leave in the corner.
All right, there it is.